Good afternoon, everybody. Anybody hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, great. All right. So, first off, Happy New Year to you all. I wish you all the best for the semester, and of course, all the best in your endeavors, whether it be work, employment, school related, and otherwise. All the best to you guys for the new year. So, this is our first employment session for the semester. Not our first for the academic year. We had sessions last semester. Based on the names that I'm seeing here, I'm not familiar with very many of these names, but nonetheless, happy to have you guys. And I'm pretty sure you guys are looking forward to today's session and as well as the other sessions we have coming up for the remainder of the semester. All right, so I intend to start on time today. I don't intend to be long either, so it's not yet 3 o'clock, so I'm giving us a little bit more time for some other persons to come in, and I intend to start promptly. All right. So in the meanwhile, I am going to post the links for the registration, the register, and the evaluation form in the chat. And in the meanwhile, you guys who are here can go ahead and fill it out in the meanwhile.
Okay.
All right, so my apologies there. I posted the registration link, the register link in the chat. So for all of us who are here and present, you can go ahead and click on the link, which will take you to a Google form, and you can go ahead and begin filling out the register. And as said before, I intend to start on time, so I'm just giving us the remaining 2 minutes for other persons to come in, and we'll start. All right, good afternoon, everybody. All right, so it's now 3 p.m. As I said earlier, I intend to start on time. So I'm now going to go ahead and put my screen up. All right, so for those of us who are aware, today's topic will be resume writing, and I will be doing the presentation for today. For those of you who don't know, I am Mr. Francis. I work in the current placement office here at UTech. I have been here for about 2 years and counting. I work closely with the current placement officer, who is the manager of the office. I am the one who mainly deals with general student queries. I'm the one who, in a sense, you can ask about work and travel. I'm the one who will deal with resumes, in today's topic, resume writing. And basically, I am the front desk person for my office, so to speak, if you will. All right, so, well, okay, we're having a lot of people in here today. Okay, all right, so while everyone is here, oh, I'm a bit low. Okay, all right, let me try and fix that. Okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm clear now, right? Okay, all right. Right, so I was just about to share my screen. Just give me about 2 minutes. Let me pull up my screen. All right, so as I said before, today's topic will be resume writing. I will be doing the presentation and right, so in the meanwhile, I am going to ask you guys to kindly fill out the Google form link that will be posted in the chat. All right, so it was just reposted in the chat. So we're kindly asking you to fill that link out, which is our register. And we will start momentarily. I just need to get my screen up and running. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Everybody hearing me right?
Yes, sir, we're hearing you.
Okay, good. All right, so sorry for the delay. Everyone see my screen, right?
Yes, we are. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, so just to introduce myself, for those who didn't hear earlier or for those who are not here, I am Mr. Francis. I work in the current placement office here at UTech. I have been here 2 years and counting, so I'm still relatively new in a sense. I work closely with Mr. Cahoon, for those who know him. He's my immediate supervisor, and basically you can consider me his assistant in a sense. You can consider me as the front desk person for my office. I'm the one who mainly deals with the students. Any queries that you may have, read job placement, resume, work and travel, you can basically come to me or come to the office and ask for me, pretty much. And speaking of resume, today's topic is resume writing. Many people who have now gotten to know me consider me as a guru or a genius. Guys, it's not that serious. I just happen to be a very decent English person, so I am very detailed. So I'm always going to sit down and take the time to look at our resume in full. So without any further ado, we are going to just jump right into today's topic. All right, so for all of us who are seeing my screen, we have in front of us a resume, right? So there is one little tidbit that I always tell students or always tell persons. Uh, Before you land a job, you have to land an interview. And before you land an interview or get an interview, your resume has to speak for you. And so, pretty much, the resume is a very essential part of your job search, of helping you to find and locate a job. So, you can think of your resume as your passport, if you will, or your TRN or your key card or something, you know? So, your resume is basically your way into a job or your way into an interview. So, as said before you land a job, you have to land an interview. Before you land the interview, your resume has to speak for you, or your resume speaks on your behalf. So, therefore, what you put on your resume and how you put your resume together is very important. And so, I am basically going to walk us through what is typically on a resume and how you'd go about generally formatting it. So to start, I'm just going to give you guys some of the general things that you would put on your resume. In the case of this person's resume that we're seeing on the screen, first and foremost, on every resume, you would have your name. That, of course, will identify whose resume it is. Immediately after your name, you would have your residential address where you reside, and of course, right after that, your contact details, namely your telephone number. As bear in mind here, ensure that the number that you put on your resume actually works and ensure that it's your number. I know at times some persons will have like a relative's number or a friend's number on there. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but ensure that whatever number you have on your resume, ensure that it's a number that works and ensure that you always answer your phone. All right? Because you never know what company or what job opportunity will come your way. And by you not answering your phone or missing a call, you may have just very well missed an opportunity, irrespective of how good or bad that opportunity may be, you know? And of course, lastly, you would have your email address, of course, as well. Ensure that the email address that you have on your resume, it's yours and ensure that it works. And as well, ensure that your email address is something that is not too, for want of better terms, outrageous, something that is just simple and professional. So You can be as simple as to say, just use your name, or, just ensure that it's not anything outrageous or graphic or anything that may be suggestive. All right. So that's pretty much the header of your resume. And immediately after that, on a lot of persons' resumes, more specifically for students, we always advise students to have what is called the career objective. And so how I would break down the career objective, it is a one sentence as shown here. It's a one sentence, so therefore it should be very brief, to the point, summarizing your intent for whatever field you want to go into or whatever industry that you want to go into. In the case of this person here, for example, their objective is to gain professional experience as a rounded and seasoned administrative customer service professional with a view to maintain customer satisfaction and contribute to productivity. So a few things to note for the career objective. Of course, as said before, it should be one sentence, should be brief and summarized to the point. As well, typically it's a general statement, yes, but it should also be specific. This person's objective is a bit, it's general for the most part, but as well there are some specifics in that they indicate what type of experience they want to gain or what kind of professional they'd want to gain. They probably could have been a little bit more specific to say what field or what sector they would want to go into. On this note, I'm going to see if I can pull up another example and show you. All right, so just so you know, guys, I'm showing you actual students' resumes. So please, this information here is sensitive, but I'm just doing this for the purpose of the presentation. All right. Okay, this one would be a little bit different. Not quite what I wanted. All right, so let me go find another one. All right, but so far so good. We're all understanding and we're all clear, right? Anybody lost? Anybody drowning? We're good? Okay, sounds like we're all good. All right, so let me just look for one more example with a objective. And here we go. All right, so here's another example of a career objective. This person here has as their objective, they want to establish career growth as an intuitive and perceptive human resource practitioner that will effect change in organizational relationships between employers and employees. So right there, you know that this person is specific with what field they want to go into. They indicate what kind of professional they want to be. And so from the get-go, you know that, okay, this person wants to go into HR. X person wants to go into accounting. X person wants to go into engineering. This person wants to go into computing. So we're all getting the picture, right? All right, so just to sum up the career objective, one sentence, you keep it brief, and you align your intention for whatever field or sector or area of expertise you want to go into. All right, and on another note, or a bit of a side note, while some persons will have a career objective, others may not necessarily have an objective. In the case of students, we always advise students to have a career objective, especially since you're still in school and you may not have years of work experience. It's advisable to have an objective. In the case of persons who are not in school, whether it be graduates or persons who are already working, particularly persons who have who have years of work experience, they would have what is called a professional profile, or what is sometimes called the functional summary. So, oh, perfect. I had already had this one open. All right, so I'm just waiting on this document to open. All right, so, oh, okay, here we go. Perfect. All right, so here is an example of what we call the professional profile. So in the profile, if you are a person with, say, at least 5 years work experience and above, you basically summarize to say, I am a professional with
Sorry,
5 or,
I'm not seeing your screen.
oh, okay. All right, thank you for that. Let me try and fix that. All right, are we seeing my screen now? I hope.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so I hope I didn't lose anybody. All right, so we just talked about the career objective. Just to summarize again, one sentence, you keep it brief, to the point, and you outline what is your intention for whatever field or sector or area of expertise you want to go into. And just to border on a side note, for persons who don't have a career objective, usually we advise students, particularly those who are still in school and those who don't have a lot of work experience, it's advisable that you have a career objective. And the career objective is just a means to guide you as you decide and make plans for whatever career area you want to go into, pretty much. All right. And now back to the side note. For persons now who have years of work experience, they would have what is called a professional profile or a functional summary, which is here in the example that we have on the screen. So as I was saying earlier, in the professional profile, persons who have years of work experience will basically summarize to say, for example, I am a successful accounting professional with 14 years experience in the financial sector. So that usually is the first point. You summarize or make reference to how many years of experience you have in whatever area of expertise you may have. As well, typically you would highlight what are your strengths in this section of your resume as well. And immediately after the professional profile, typically persons of that caliber would highlight their skills and attributes afterwards. So this is just, you can just consider this as extra or broader information, if you will. But in the case of most persons who are here, you guys are students, and you may not necessarily have a lot of work experience or a lot of experience. So in your case, we advise, or our office would advise you to have a career objective. And I'll just go back to one that we were looking at earlier, just so that we are all clear. And okay, so we are all good so far, right? Anybody lost? Anybody by the wayside? I'm clear, we're understanding.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, so let me just pull up back the previous example that we were looking at, and we'll go right along. All righty. All right, so back to our first example. The career objective, one sentence, brief, to the point, and you outline what area of expertise you want to go into. All right, the next major thing we'd have on the resume, and this is usually a trouble or a kicker for many persons because a lot of us don't have it, but nonetheless, it has to be on the resume. And this is the work history, work experience, professional experience, whatever term you want to use, you have to have work experience on your resume. And so again, this is just an example. This is actually a graduate's resume that I'm actually using just for the purpose of this presentation. So kindly bear that in mind, all right? Okay. All right, so with respect to work experience, you want to basically ensure, one, you list all the work experience that you have. So especially since if you may not have a lot of professional work experience. So for example, you may not be employed for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or even 2 years. Whatever experience that you have now, be it summer jobs, internships, work and travel experience, Christmas jobs, holiday jobs, you can list them on your resume up until you are able to gather or get other or more professional work experience, if you will. All right, so just a few key things to note. In terms of listing your work experience, you want to ensure that you list them in descending order. So most recent first, and you go down in descending order. Also, the basic things that you want to capture, the name of the company where you worked, your job title or job position if you had one, and of course the period for which you worked. All right. What I've done or what has been done with this person's resume is they have decided to segment their work experience. So if you notice, all of this first part here is professional experience, and then all of their summer employment and internship experience they have grouped together. As well, you follow the same order: company name, the job title if you had one, and the period for which you worked. And in terms of listing your duties, you can and you don't necessarily have to. But if you are to list your duties, you can be brief, no more than 3 to 5 points. And as well, if you are no longer working at a particular place, so for example here, the duties would be stated in the past tense. However, if you are still present at the company where you work, then duties would be in the present tense or in the present continuous tense, as shown here, for example. All right. Next is education and qualifications. All right. So this is where you indicate where you did your degree, where you did your associate degree, where you did your high school education, and so on of the like. So likewise with work experience, you list the most recent qualification first. So in the case of this person, their most recent qualification is their university degree, followed by any other tertiary education, which they would have done. In this case, this person did a diploma. If you did an associate, which was before your degree, degree first, associate degree after that. And then of course your CXC and your CAPES would be the last thing that you'd list under education, because we're listing.
So what about if you're in the process of doing the degree?
I would be getting to that, but since you brought up that question, if you are still doing your degree, so for example, if you're still in school, you wouldn't put when you are expected to end. You would have present, or in the case that you have finished your degree and you're awaiting award, you would have pending beside your degree. Is that clear for you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, okay.
So we need to include GPA or that not necessary?
Well, I'm very glad that you brought up that question. The GPA is not a necessity. It is for some people. Some recruiters, yes, you're always gonna have some recruiters that will ask, what is your GPA? And so a lot of persons, just out of habit or just because they want to put it there, they indicate it there on their resume. But it's not a necessity per se. Usually though, from the resumes I have seen, persons who indicate their GPA, usually it's a high GPA. So for example, a 3.5 or a 4.0 or a 3.82, whatever it may be. Usually it's a fairly decent GPA that's put there beside their degree. But as said before, it's not a necessity that you have to put it there. Persons who do put their GPA on, they feel that it will market them. It works in some instances because, as said before, some recruiters ask for persons with a high GPA or usually prefer persons with a high GPA, you know. But as said before, generally speaking, it's not a necessity. So are there any other questions before I move on? Okay, so it sounds like we're all good. All right, so just to round up what we just looked at, education qualifications. As I mentioned the heading, this was something I learned since being at my office. Education and qualifications can be split. So what is done here in this case is the education qualifications are merged. So education, okay, Rowan, I know that you have raised your hand. I just wanted to hold your thoughts. Right. Okay, so just a note here. Education refers to where you got your qualifications from, and qualifications is basically the what you get from the where, if that makes sense. So education is the where, qualifications are the what you get from the where. So to show you an example of them being split, I will just use the same example that we have here. So, all right, so under education, you would just simply have the names of the institutions, and then qualifications would be the actual qualifications you got from these institutions above. All right, so we're clear on that? Okay. All right, so for the person who had raised their hand, you can go ahead and ask your question. The person that raised their hand, you can go ahead and ask your question now.
I would like to ask a question. Do you have to list out your CXC and K subject activities, or you don't have to do that?
Very excellent question. You don't have to. In the view, okay, from the perspective of my office, it's not necessary, or rather you don't have to list them, because listing your CXCs and your CAPES or your subjects, that takes up unnecessary space on your resume. So you don't have to list them, because listing them would basically be redundant in a sense, because when you go to the interview now, you're going to also present copies of your documents as evidence to say, I did these 12 CXCs, I did these 13 CAPE subjects, I did this degree. So you don't have to list your CXCs, you don't have to list your CAPES, and you don't have to list courses that you had done in your degree. From my experience at UWI, I'm a UWI graduate, by the way. From my experience from the Career Services Office at UWI, I was told that I could list subjects from my degree. Let's see if I can actually pull up my resume just to give you a further example. All right, so just give me 2 seconds. All right, sorry for that delay. All right, so just to give you guys a visual example. So here's an example of what my resume looks like currently. You guys are seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, so on the point of my degree, all right, so here is my degree. So I did a Bachelor of Arts, Entertainment and Cultural Enterprise Management. So as I always sum it up, entertainment, events, and cultural. That's pretty much my degree. On this note, a degree like mine is, in a sense, very rare. So not very many people would have this type of degree. So when I was having my resume vetted by Career Services, Andrea, can you deal with that young lady, please? Right, sorry about that. Right, when I was being vetted when my resume rather was being vetted by UA Career Services, I was told to put my education at the top of my resume because, as I said before, a degree like mine is very rare. So they figured, okay, a degree like mine would be a selling point for me. pretty much. But over time, you get to explore and play around with different formats and to play around with how you format your resume. So currently, this is what my resume looks like. I have a career objective because I don't yet have 5 years work experience. But to demonstrate that I actually have experience in terms of what I have been exposed to, I decided to go and have a functional summary just to indicate how should I say now, how rounded I've become as a customer service person, as a front desk person. In this functional summary as well, I highlighted my skills, well, my more developed skills, and I've highlighted areas that I have exposure in and those sort of things. And then this is what my work experience is basically. Nothing much, just pretty much 2 jobs, and the last one, which is here, this in a sense could be considered earn and study, if you will. But of course, over UA, they don't call it earn and study. You're basically, they call it student assistant, if you will, but same concept. So pretty much, this is all my work experience here. I spent about 6 months here. This was after I graduated. And I spent, this was my final year of UA. So year and 6 months. And I've currently been at UTech 2 years now and counting. So give or take, that's about 3.5, almost 4 years of work experience right there. Even though this is earn and study experience, I still count it as professional experience because it is the first job that I had, which is longer than 6 months. So for me, I count that as professional experience. You know, others may view that differently, but for me personally, I count this experience that I have here as professional experience for myself. All right, and then going down, as I was showing you before, I have my degree here, which is my most recent qualification. And then you would have other tertiary education that you've done. In this case, I did a certificate, did some CXCs while there. And then of course, my high school subject passes are here. Again, you don't need to list your subjects. You can just simply summarize by saying, I have, well, rather, get to the point, 10K passes, 7 CXC passes. Oh yes, which reminds me, in the event that you have not done your CXCs and CAPES from the same school, of course, logic will dictate. So you list where you did your CAPE subjects first, followed by your CXC passes, because CAPE is higher than CXC. So put it this way, degree, associate degree, certificate, diploma, followed by your CAPE, lastly your CXCs. We get in the picture? Okay, so it sounds like we're all understanding and we're all good. All right. So I am going to go back to the first example that we were looking at. And all right, let us go back. All right, so, oh, was someone saying something? Okay, no one wasn't saying anything. All right, so just to wrap up what we have done so far, we looked at the header of the resume. Basically, always have your name first. Oh yes, on that note, your name should be the biggest thing, so to speak, or rather should be in the largest font size, because your name on your resume is what will identify your resume. So if your name is not there, the HR person ain't gonna know whose resume it is. So have to have your name there. As well, have to have contact details for you. How do you expect an HR person to reach you if you don't have your contact details there? And of course, always have a mailing address as well. Immediately after that, we have the career objective, which we discussed already. For those
excuse me, is it necessary to have a picture?
Very good question. Well, as it relates to the picture, Again, I am relating, well, I'm going to relate from my personal experience at UE. When I went to career placement over at UE, they told me flat out no, basically. So I took that to say, okay, the picture, generally speaking, let's just say no, right? But the picture can be and is accepted in some or certain fields. So for example, let's say fields like PR or marketing or maybe communications, those types of fields, they would accept a picture. Otherwise, the picture is not a must and it's not necessary. So generally speaking, no picture on your resume. Okay, Ryan, I see your hand. All right, go ahead with your question.
What about persons with technical certifications?
You want to know what you can do with those certifications on your resume?
Yes.
Okay, well, you can put those on your resume as well. What you can do is to have a separate heading apart from your usual education and qualifications here. You could just simply have a heading known as, just say, training and certifications, or just simply certifications. And you list those certifications under there. Is that clear for you, Ryan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. All right, so back to the point of the picture. Generally speaking, let's just say no. But if you do decide to put a picture on, ensure that it is a headshot, of course, or what they call a profile shot, and ensure that that picture is professional looking, or ensure that it's decent and modest, a professional. So ensure that you are professionally attired in that headshot. But generally speaking, let's just say no picture on your resume, right? And however, it is accepted in some or certain fields. So I hope that answered your question.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, so we have looked at the header of the resume. We have looked at the career objective. We also went and did a sidebar on the professional profile or functional summary. We discussed work experience. That's pretty much the work experience. We talked about education qualifications. We talked about training and certifications, which you can also put on your resume as well. Which reminds me, which will basically go into another segment of what you put on your resume. All right, also on your resume, you can put your co-curricular involvements. So any club activities you did, any professional associations you're a part of, if you're involved in your church, if you're involved in anything special at your school, if you're on the honor roll, things like that, those can go on your resume as well. Just to note though, anything that you would have done in high school, except your CXC and CAPE qualifications. All right, so your CXC and CAPE qualifications is fine on your resume, but anything else that you would have done at the high school level is not necessary on your resume, because you would have already, in the case of everyone here, we're all at the university level, we're all at the tertiary level, so there is no need now to focus on your high school history, because being that you're now at the tertiary level, anything that you would have done at the high school level is in a sense redundant, or for want of better terms, not valid per se. I don't want to sound harsh, but pretty much as you progress, you begin to shed things and cut things off of your resume. So with respect to, let's say, for example, you just came out of high school, probably if you're just coming out of high school and you're in university, say up to about your third year or maybe even up to your final year, you can, in a sense, still keep your high school things, but after a certain time during your university tenure or during your university life, during your university experience, you can at some point cut off everything that you would have done in high school off your resume, right? And on a side note as well, or rather, as another heading as well that you can have on your resume, awards, honors, special recognitions, achievements. There is room on your resume for those as well. So for example, you were on the honor roll. You're an honor student. You're a part of the honor society. You get awards for best academic performance for your faculty, your most outstanding student in your faculty. Those are things that you can also put on your resume because those are notable achievements. Those also add to your student experience and your student life as well. Right? So as said before, there is space and room on your resume for those things as well. And as said before, note anything that you would have done in high school is not necessary or not valid to be put on your resume because you're now tertiary students. And even for those who are final year, you're now on your way out of university. You're basically at the door of the working world. You don't need to have anything that you've done in high school on your resume, except your 60 and your CAPE certificates at the very least. So a lot of us were prefect, a lot of us were head boy, a lot of us got outstanding awards for CXC and CAPE and all of that. All those are nice, fine and dandy, but given that you're now university students, there's no need for those to be put on your resume. If you feel that they market you, if you feel that those things market you or add value to you, then you may use those as talking points in an interview setting. Otherwise, you don't need to put them on your resume. All right. Moving on, I realize time is winding down, so I'm just going to try and finish up briefly. We're almost at the end, guys. And just to be sure everyone is clear, everybody's understanding. Did I leave anybody by the wayside? Anybody drowning? Anybody have questions?
Sir,
Yes.
do we have to go into detail about the address? I don't have a problem, but someone says it's not safe. Like, wouldn't Kingston, they basically said Kingston, Jamaica, or whatever parish would suffice.
Oh, you're asking about the address that you put on your resume?
Yeah, like, yeah.
Okay. Well, with respect to the address that you're putting on your resume, again, as I said before, I'm an English person, so I always want to ensure things are formatted properly. So in the case of this resume, your lot number, lane that you're on, your post office or the general area that you live, and the parish. You don't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to add Jamaica, West Indies on it. So this is an example that's fine. Let me go back on my resume as another example that you could look at. So let me pause the share screen here and bring up back my resume. All right, so here is my address here. Let me just zoom in on this. So again, you just need your lot number, general area where you live, post office, parish. You don't need to go into detail about Jamaica, West Indies. Not exactly necessary because we're already in Jamaica already. If you are abroad then you can probably add that on.
Okay, sir. And then like, say I have education and then the line goes straight across. Is that necessary?
What exactly are you talking about?
So, you know, like some resumes, like we have your line on the other one, you just have the line under, say, education. Like it would be to the left and then it goes straight to the right corner.
Oh, you mean those lines that go across the page?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Personally, I am not a fan of those lines. Mind you, when I was in high school and even while at UA, I probably had those lines at some on my resume at some point, but eventually I'm like, okay, these lines to me don't make any sense. So I avoid the lines, and I'm not really a fan of them per se. I guess depending on how you format your resume, the lines may be okay and the lines may complement the format of your resume, but it's not a necessity, generally speaking. So did that answer your question? I hope.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Oh, and just one more point on the address. In time past, we used to put beside our school and the places where we were the address. Nowadays, it's not necessary for you to have the addresses beside your places of employment and your school. So
like you don't have to have University of Technology Jamaica.
Well, yes, you have to. You have to. But in terms of putting the address there, you don't need UTEC's address on your resume. You just simply need the name of the school, period for which you went to school, what you did at the school. Likewise here, I just need the place of employment, University of Technology, comma, Jamaica. UTEC is very particular with its name. Period for which you worked or are working, and your job position. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I noticed 2 persons raised their hands. All right, the 2 persons can ask their questions.
Yes. Who would you best suggest to stand as reference? I'm not sure if you had mentioned that earlier on, but
Okay.
yeah, who would you best suggest to? Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm very glad you brought that up. References is the very, very last thing. All right, so, okay, given that it's almost 4 o'clock, I don't want to keep us too very long. So let me just wrap up. And of course, references rather would be the last thing. So when I'm touching on references, hopefully, whatever questions you may have, I would have tried my best to answer them. All right. So let me take the other person's question now. Who was the other person that raised their hand? Ryan? Okay. Oh, nobody else wants to? Okay.
There's
Ashley?
someone in the chat asking if you can look at their resume, if that's possible.
Not right now at this moment. But let me type in the chat the email address for the office. Just give me a second while I look for that. All right, so the email address for the office, I'm gonna say it verbally, but I'm also typing it as well. It is placement@utech.edu.jm. But there's also a specific way that we would want you to send your resume to us. So I'm just going to look for that, or at least while I'm here, I will just share my screen to show you guys how to get that format. All right, so let me get back to share screen. All right, sharing screen. All right, so we're all seeing my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so first things first, you go to UTEC's main webpage. At the top right-hand corner here, click on Students. To the right-hand side again, Student Services, under which you will find Career and Placement, which takes you to our office webpage. I will also post the link for our website in the chat as well. And right, we're here for resumes. So you click on the resume section. And here we give you some general information, do's and don'ts, what to put in a resume, what makes up a resume, common errors and mistakes to avoid, resume checklist, and as well we have samples that you can look at and use as your own as well. And more specifically, this is what I wanted you guys to get. So what you're going to put in the subject line when emailing us your resume. So for example, if you are a student, whether you are full-time or part-time, so first things first, your enrollment status. So for example, full-time, Matthew Francis. Okay, this is missing something. The year as well should be there. So for example, full-time, 2018, Matthew Francis, COBAM, Entertainment Management. Likewise, part-time, Mary Brown, Faculty of Built Environment, Electrical Engineering. Graduate, Melissa Goldburn, graduate 2019, Melissa Goldburn, College of Business and Management, Accounting. And you send us the email. Sorry, give me 1 second, guys. All right, so let me go in the chat and post the website link so you guys can have it. All right, so that's the link to our webpage. And as well, just a gentle reminder, kindly click on the Google links that you see posted in the chat. Those Google links will direct you to our register, which you will sign for today's session to indicate you represent. And as well, we have an evaluation, which is normally handed out physically. But of course, due to COVID, we now have to go the online route. So both the register and the evaluation are Google Forms, which you can complete by clicking the links in the chat. And you can go ahead and fill those out during the session. All right, so as said before, we are wrapping up. I don't intend to keep us very much longer. All right, so going back to the example that we had. All right, so I'm going back to share screen and we're just gonna wrap up here. All right, so we looked at the header of the resume, we looked at the career objective, we talked about the functional summary or professional profile, we talked about work experience, we talked about qualifications and education, right? Voluntary service, community service, that as well there is space for that on your resume as well. Community service, in a sense, can market you in some respects. And as well, community service adds to the existing experience you have on your resume. Community service as well helps and grows you, right? Grows you as a person as well. And put it this way, even stuff like your group work, you see all of those group work experiences that you do, those are examples of experiences that can help shape you into a person. Because at the end of the day, bear in mind, you have to deal with all kinds of people when you go through university. You have to deal with managers, you deal with parents, you have to deal with your colleagues, you deal with your friends, you deal with lecturers, you have to deal with accounts, you have to deal with admissions, all these sort of people. And even more so in your classroom space, you have to deal with all kinds of different personalities. It's the same thing in the work world. So stuff like group work, even club involvements as well, being on an executive body, whether it be in a club or at your church, in your community, you doing volunteer work, those are experiences that can help shape you and develop you as a person. So at the end of the day, you can say, I have learned to work with people. I've learned how to deal with people. I I'm a good team player. I have very good interpersonal skills, which leads us into skills, attributes, competencies, abilities, whichever terms you want to use, it's all the same thing. So this is where you list your personal attributes, those intrinsic attitudes that are true to you as a person. So for example, you're a good team player, you have great organizational skills, you are a friendly person, you are easy to get along with, good team player, those sort of attributes that are personal to you. You can also include your regular basic generic skills, you're competent, for example, in Microsoft Office Suite. One thing I will always say, always ensure that you, what do you call it now, quantify or qualify your skills. So for example, use terms such as proficient in, exposed to, ability to, exposure to, familiar with, exposure in, those sort of things, just to kind of gauge how well you are good in a certain skill. Because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that you are honest and clear and coherent with what you put on your resume. And as well with skills and abilities, you can also list your technical competences. So for example, like the skits, like for computing persons, they'll say that they are proficient in program languages, and in brackets you specify what program languages you are good at, whether it be Python or PXP, LM. I'm just throwing out some examples here, guys.
PHP, sir, not PXP.
Yes, thank you. But I'm just throwing out examples so you get the idea of what to put there. All right, so thank you for the correction though. Right, so skills, attributes, competencies. Basically, you put there things that you are good at, things that are true to you as a person. Lastly, as well, you can put your interests and activities. So those things that you have an interest in, those things that you are passionate about, those things that you have some remote interest in. So for example, for me, I like events, I like arts related activities, I like theater, I like traveling. I'm health conscious in a sense too. That's something that you could maybe put there. You're an exercise enthusiast, you're a fitness enthusiast. Like traveling as well. I like socializing and networking. So those type of things you will put there for interests. Of course, activities, which can refer to what you call hobbies. But it's more appropriate to use the term activities and interests, so you can group those together in a sense. And lastly, finally, but not least, references. So remembering the question that was raised earlier about references, for the purpose of your resume, usually it's said that you have no less than 3 references. And to be on the safe side, references, firstly and foremost, have to know you. They have to know you as a person, because in them being a reference, they are justifying or stating that they have known you for a certain amount of time. They are familiar with you in, say, the work environment. They are familiar with you as a lecturer. Sorry about that, guys. Right, so usually, as said, you have no less than 3 references. So of course, usually you would have persons that would know you from a professional standpoint or from in a professional context. So in that case, you can use, say, past employers, your lecturer, your dean, your head of school, your pastor, a JP. Once they know you personally, known you for a certain amount of time, say at least a year or 2 years at least, because the person has to be able to speak to your character, speak to who you are as a person, and more so speak of you in a professional light. because most references that are asked for usually are what we call professional references. And then you have what is called character references. And as the name suggests, whoever is a character reference should be able to speak about you as a person, whether it be in a good light, in a positive light. They should be able to recommend you. A reference is supposed to be one that is able to recommend you, right? So as the name suggests, reference. And of course, as frequently asked for as part of applying for a job, you're asked to give recommendations from persons that you can call on as a reference. And as well, before you put down anyone as a reference, you should ask their permission first. And as well, general information that you would have for your reference when putting them on your resume, you should have their name, of course, their job position, where they work, and of course, contact information, whereby they can be contacted, because recruiters and employers will actually call references. They do. May not be all the time. You may not know when they'll do it, but they will do it, right? So always have persons that you can, have persons in your corner that you can consider as references. Yes, all right, so I'm just gonna pause for a minute. If any of you have questions, just give me a brief minute, okay, guys? Thank you all for listening and for being so attentive. Just give me a brief minute. Alrighty, gentle people. So that pretty much concludes my presentation. Oh, you are welcome, Anne-Marie. Rochelle Reese, 3, I thought it was 2. Okay, to be honest, I can't really exactly remember. Possibly it's 2, because I was so far back, I can't even remember myself. But I usually say 2 or 3. Well, generally consider it 2 to 3. So don't have any less than 2, no more than 3. So put it that way, let's just say 3 to be safe. Right? I understand that some of you guys have questions, but unfortunately we have to wrap up for today. What I can do, I'm gonna post in the chat my email. So any questions that you may have regarding resume, you are welcome to email me directly. I'm typing my email in the chat so that you guys can have it. And you guys have the general office email, which is placement@utech. That's where you can send your resumes to. And note as well to follow the directions on the webpage as well. All right, so my personal UTech email is there. The general office email is there. You are welcome, Sashani. Hope I got that right. You are very welcome. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for being part of today's session. I am so sorry for rushing. I really wish I could take your questions. Hopefully in another session next week, God's willing. You guys have my email, you have the office email. You guys are welcome to email me. And of course, I will answer your questions. All right. So I sometimes may be delayed in my responses, but don't worry, I always answer emails. And of course, if you are ever nearby, you can come to the office or you can call. All right, the office's contact information is on the website as well. General information, some of what I would have said to you is on the website as well. You're welcome to view our website. And if there's anything that you're not clear on, you can shoot me an email or call or visit. Thank you all again for coming. It was wonderful having you guys. I'm so appreciative of how many of you that turned out. I hope you all had signed the register and filled out the evaluation before you had left. All right. Thank you guys again. You guys are most welcome. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Tashana. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you to all. Okay, Sashani, noted. I will be looking forward to your visit. Same to you, Angelica. Thank you. All right, guys. I'm sorry, but I have to run. It was fun. I am grateful for this opportunity. Hopefully we will do this again. All right. Thank you to Shanique. All right, bye guys. Please remember to sign the register and the evaluations. The links are in the chat. You might have to scroll back up a far way to find them. All right, it was fun. I'm out of here. Bye.